Hello everyone, and welcome to NAWG, a history podcast, where we discuss underrepresented topics in history. If you're a fan of all things history and would like to learn with me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and hit that little bell to enable notifications. This will tell you when I publish bonus episodes outside of our set bi-weekly schedule. Onward to today's bonus 4th of July episode. Some extreme technical difficulties pushed the posting date a few days after the 4th, but the content was so important that I wanted to share it with you regardless of the calendar snafu. Have you heard of the holiday known as Juneteenth? You might be wondering, what is Juneteenth? Or you might be asking, why is she making a Juneteenth episode for the 4th of July? All of these questions and more are the subject of today's content. Let's begin. It's the great American pastime to be revving up for the 4th of July, getting ready for barbecues, fireworks, sparklers, and late summer revelry with family and friends to celebrate our patriotism and freedom. But while you're eating overpriced fare food or covering yourself from head to toe in American flag-themed clothing, I'd like you to remember that there are not one, but two Independence Days here in the United States, and that the 4th of July certainly didn't mark freedom for everyone here in the United States. No, that was the job of Juneteenth, often referred to as Freedom Day or Emancipation Day. This is the day that many Black Americans celebrate their independence, their liberation, their definitive end to slavery on June 19th, 1865. I apologize for not having this episode out in time for the actual 19th of June this year. With NAWG being so new, I wasn't organized enough to coordinate my release material with actual calendar events. But I felt so strongly about Juneteenth not being common knowledge in America that I decided that the 4th of July, the most marketed day of freedom, was the second most appropriate day to release on. Now, for those of you that might be paying attention to the historical timeline here, you might be asking, why is the end of slavery holiday June 19th, 1865, when Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation a whole 2.5 years before them? Great question. And the answer to that is very simple and also very disturbing. But it requires a quick history lesson. For those of you that aren't familiar, January 1st, 1863, not 65, was when Abraham Lincoln actually signed the executive order that changed the federal legal status of enslaved African Americans in certain southern territories from slave to free. But nobody told the slaves this. It's often paraded that the Emancipation Proclamation outlawed slavery, and that was that. This was, however, not the case. With the rebellion still very strong in several southern states, it took years for the Union to take back the South, making it impossible to regulate and enforce his proclamation in states not under Union control. That is, until that fateful day in June 1865, when General Gordon Granger rode into Galveston, Texas with his soldiers. Granger brought with him the news of the Emancipation Proclamation and the end of the Civil War. It is said that upon hearing this news, some former slaves left on the spot. Some headed north to the supposed safe land, others traversed the south in hopes of piecing together families that had been torn apart and ravaged by the slave trade. How has Juneteenth since been celebrated? Well, for the first celebration, it was illegal for blacks to rent out public places for assembly, so they would gather near streams, lakes, or other beautiful outdoor locations. They dressed in their fanciest clothes to combat current laws dictating that they must be clothed in ratty attire. I kid you not, this is just one example on how they were treated and just one example on how the law was stacked against them. And here they sang and celebrated in their own ways. It was a big affair with multiple families, and the holiday is still celebrated similarly today with the consumption of red food, red velvet cake, red lemonade, among others. The red-themed menu represents the blood spilled during slavery. It has become tradition at some Juneteenth celebrations to read the Emancipation Proclamation. As someone from the outside, The most important thing to keep in mind is that the end of slavery didn't magically free Black people in America. They might not have been slaves anymore, but they still were hunted, killed, and violently prejudiced against long after that fateful day in 1865. This holiday means a lot of different things to Black Americans. It reminds of the great strides that have been made in their fight for civil rights and to celebrate their ancestors, family, culture, and the fight that is left to come. It's a celebration of the Black experience, sense of community, and cultural contributions. My point here is that Independence Day means different things for different people, but that it's our responsibility to realize that the 4th of July is not the definitive day of American freedom. To many, it's just another example of white history being mistakenly synonymous with American history. The truth of the matter is, to embrace our people and value all of their experiences, we need to value all of their holidays and traditions. So please, enjoy your family, friends, and freedom, but remember that there is much more to the American experience than this one day of freedom, and that on July 4th, 1776, there were millions in America that were not free, and they would not be free for generations to come. Thank you for listening to Juneteenth, a celebration of freedom in America. What did you like about today's episode? What would you like to learn more about? Go ahead and ask these questions in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Next week, I have a new episode coming out with NAWG, a history podcast, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who you think would like it. I invite you to join NAWG on Facebook and Instagram. Those links are also below. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.